believer in every team needs something different. I thought Pete Carroll to the Raiders is a great hire. You played with him in Seattle for a couple years. For Raider fans, what will Pete provide? Because you always felt you really liked Pete, if I recall.
Yeah, so I think the thing when it comes to Pete, and again, I had him just for one season in Seattle. I think there's and I told everyone when I came home, I'm like, there's a lot of things. If ever one day there was a magic wand and you said, okay, you're in charge of a team and you've got to run team meeting and you've got to handle situational play calling during the week and preparation and how to model week to week practice schedules and communication and vision, all of that, Pete is A+. He is as organized and as diligent and as good as anybody I've ever been around in all of those things. I think the question that comes with a guy like Pete, you're going to get the leadership and the experience. All of that is a given. I think the question you get with a hire like Pete is no different than any other defensive coach. And you touched on it. I was listening to your last segment before the break, and it's no different than with Aaron Glenn or whoever the defensive coach is. The number one question is who is your offensive coordinator and how do you figure out the quarterback position? You could be the greatest leader. You could be the greatest galvanizer and run the best locker room and run the best. If your offense isn't good, defensive coaches get fired. So it's kind of funny. You look at Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, or you look at offensive coaches. When their offense is really good and their defense struggles, the defensive coordinator gets replaced. When defensive coaches, Robert Saleh, for example, when he got fired, they were a top 5 defense in the league. It was the offense that was struggling. Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing up to expectations. The offense was underachieving, and they fired the defensive guy. So, it's the quandary that these defensive coaches find themselves in, and I don't think it's their fault. Everybody wants a good offense. Whether you're winning and losing, everybody wants a good offense. Offensive coaches, when they're the head coach, it takes a long time for them to get fired. They probably only get fired if they don't have a good offense or obviously a star quarterback. And you look at McDermott, you look at some of the really long-time, really good defensive coaches, they're able to weather the storm of the ups and downs of being on the defensive side because they have Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So if Pete can bring in a young Russell Wilson and he can figure it out as quickly as he did in Seattle, he's a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's such a great point in terms of if you have a struggling defense, but you're an offensive head coach and you're having success, you stick around. And yet if you have a great defense and your offense is struggling and your defensive head coach, they let you go. And it's true. We saw that with Eberflus. We saw that with Robert Saleh. We've seen that a lot over the years, but even just these past 2 years. And so I think it's a great point because also though, when you have an offensive head coach, you're connected to the quarterback as well, right? Like you're severing multiple connections when you let go of a coach like that, and that obviously matters, and it seems that the offense, people see that offense is so much more cerebral, X's and O's, et cetera, right? We always talk about these offensive geniuses, right? Ben Johnson is a genius, and Andy Reid is a genius, and Sean McVay is a genius, and what are these defensive head coaches or just defensive coaches in general? It's all about brute force and intensity and hard work, and it's just it's a different energy that they bring, and it's about really inspiring these guys and getting them in the right place at the right time and all that. But it's really just, they see it less as intellectual. And I think both things are actually kind of true in a way. But I think, you can still obviously be like a defensive genius, like we see someone like a Spags be, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of defense is also about, right, making tackles, hitting hard, putting in that work, and bringing that level of intensity, right? You're going to be able to make a defensive play more often than not with brute force compared to offense, right? Like you're either open or you're not. You can't be like, I'm going to catch this ball right now. And it's just and maybe you will, maybe you won't, right? It depends how good the coverage is. It's just it's a little bit more of, where there's a will, there's a way. But again, it's not to downplay that you obviously also need high levels of intelligence and creativity, defensively as well. But I think what Pete Carroll brings to this Raiders team, right, is that organization is that level of organization, as well as, attention to detail and doing all of these things that the Raiders, I feel, desperately need. Honestly, desperately, desperately need. And yeah, they are at the mercy of who their quarterback is and who their OC will be. And I think that's totally fair. I also wonder, because since they have such a short contract with Pete Carroll, it's only 3 years, I wonder if they're going to try to lure, and I just don't know, like, if what the plan is here, because Pete Carroll's obviously in his 70s, he's not going to coach until he's 95. So I don't know exactly what the plan is, but I just wonder if it is kind of like, hey, we're gonna really try to really hit a home run with an offensive coordinator / quarterback relationship, and within the 3 years, like, unless we're really winning and humming, then we're going to elevate that offensive coordinator to be the head coach, right? Like, you're part of your role as as this head coach is actually to mentor this OC. I don't know, because it could also be like, you know what, in 3 years things are going pretty well, but Pete Carroll's done, and now, I don't know, another great offensive coach is available now, and they're like, okay, well, we're just gonna go, right? Ben Johnson, what's his face, ends up being a true bust, right? And Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson now is available again, and they're like, okay, we'll take Ben Johnson. Or again, I'm making up examples, but I just wonder, or if they're really going to take it as kind of like, hey, Pete, we know you're at the end of your career, we're gonna give you this opportunity, we're giving you the short contract, like, we really need to kind of rebuild this from the ground up. And we want to create actually like an exit plan for you as well, outside of you just really turning this thing around, and by year 2 or 3, like, we're contending for AFC championship games right now. Like, it's always a moving target, right? I mean, it always is that, but I don't know what the Raiders plan to do offensively. I don't even know what their quarterback situation is going to be. Like, that's what makes it so difficult to really understand what the plan is from that viewpoint. It really is. But, regardless of exactly what they do, I think what's cool about the Raiders now is that it feels like they actually have a plan that they're either in the process of still developing, or they already have the plan that they're just now in the process of executing. But whatever it is, I talk about this a lot, it's intentional. It's not just like, we'll try a little bit of this, and I guess we'll do that. Like, we'll have an interim head coach, and I guess we'll make him the head coach, and I don't know, we'll have Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, like, you. And, it just was very much kind of like, we'll do a little bit of this, and I guess maybe Derek Carr. No more Derek Carr. Devontae. Not Devontae. Like, it was just very kind of random. And I just think you're now going to get, organization, and you're actually going to get an intentional plan of attack to how to really get this team back on track. And I think the Raiders fans deserve that, honestly. Again, I spoke about this also before, about how passionate of a fan base this team has, and they want a team that they can root for. The Raiders are absolutely, if you build it, they will come. And so it's just like, and they've already have been sticking around. So it's just like, give them something to cheer about, make them relevant again. And I think Pete Carroll is a great step in that direction. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Raiders' plan? What do you think kind of their plan is with all of this, and kind of what Pete will bring in, I guess maybe some of the questions that you would have with someone like a Pete Carroll? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.